Folks, do you want a HELOC on an investment property? You've probably gone out and shopped for one. Maybe you found HELOCs on single families, but nobody wants to service 2 to 4 units. Good news, folks. The founders of Convoy Home Loans have come out and said, you know what? We are going to fill this big gaping hole. Jonathan, this is big news. HELOCs for 2 to 4 units on top of what was already available in single family homes. What do you got?
Yeah, just to recap before we jump into the new product, obviously we were doing HELOCs on investment properties already for single family residences. And for 2 to 4 units, we were also doing like fixed seconds. So before it was like, okay, you can get a fixed second, 30-year fixed on it. It wasn't a HELOC. Now we can do a HELOC on a 2 to 4 unit. The only caveat is it's not DSCR based, it's not based on some other type of income. Unfortunately, this is full doc only right now. So debt to income ratio comes into play, but it kind of makes sense to think about it. Just,
Yeah.
risk leverage wise, it didn't exist before. Now it does exist. So
Yep.
they're always going to be a little more conservative rolling it in. And then I assume that probably in the next, year, hopefully we'll see another product roll out where it's the same thing where we can do like stated income, either HELOC for first single family residence, same way
Mhm.
for a 2 to 4. But as of right now, it's up to 75, 80% loan to combined loan to value. So that's
Right.
first plus second loan.
Yep.
And on 2 to 4 units goes on the second position. It should help a lot of people.
I got to tell you, when I go through my comments from investors, a HELOC is kind of the number one question, specifically on 2 to 4 units, right? So
Mhm.
I expect a lot of people right away to go, okay, how do I reach out? What do I do? So let's just hit that. We'll hit it again. If somebody's intrigued by this HELOC option, what do we do?
Go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from more at.
Yeah, folks, if you let them know you came from ORAT, you're going to get this fine gentleman or his partner, Dustin. If not, you're just going to end up in some silly queue, and you don't want to be in the queue. You want to talk to the principal. So tell them you came from
Yeah.
ORAT. You can talk about HELOCs.
Yeah,
All
and then
right.
I will just say the states really quick. I'm looking it up right now because I don't know off the top of my head that we can do this in. It'll be Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington. I list that out just in case people are Googling, and it just,
Yeah.
YouTube kind of finds those words. Yeah.
There you go. There you go, folks. So again,
Yeah.
HELOC in those states, 2 to 4 units. I've actually had that question, no kidding, a dozen times in the last 30 days. So I'm really glad that Convoy stepped up and brought it to market. The other thing I think that bears repeating, and there's lots of people starting to get, I don't know, I'll call it teams together. I think the industry calls it syndications. A lot of people looking to do kind of multi-party transactions. Hopefully, they're just getting ready for the commercial pain that's coming. But could Convoy help them, or is that not a place you want to play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of our big investor groups end up being syndications, right? It's
Okay.
just a group of like 3 to 4 to however many people that join together in an entity, like an LLC, and purchase properties together and kind of go on loans together. The only thing that we get asked, though, a lot is, hey, who needs to sign, right?
Hmm.
Because the guarantee aspect is a pretty big aspect of it, right? Because there's
Yeah,
two
exactly.
ways on loans, right? There's 2 ways on loans. There's either going to be recourse or non-recourse.
Mhm.
And a lot of the residential loans, 1 to 4 units, end up being recourse most times. And on recourse loans, if you're over 20% most of the time in an entity, we
Mhm.
tell the client, hey, you need to come on the loan. We need to underwrite you and you need to
Okay.
sign a personal guarantee. If you're under 20%, doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
We can use your liquidity, assets, reserves, but you're just not going to be signing on
Okay.
the documents.
So 20% is the
And
threshold.
20% is the threshold. And then if
Okay.
it's non-recourse, which we do have available for investment properties
Hmm.
that are big blanket portfolios. So, institutional borrowers that have, are buying and selling, trading 10, 20, doors. Those ones we have non-recourse products that basically that means that you're not signing as a person, you're signing as just the member and
Right.
the entity is truly the owner of the property. And
Mhm.
if let's say you default or something happens, it stops at the entity versus following you through your personal like a recourse would. But
Yeah.
that in that case, everyone signs, but it's non-recourse, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, folks, if you are thinking about putting together a group of folks, AKA a syndication or just a group of friends, whatever you want to call it, there are ways to do it right. But as far as lending options, Convoy Home Loans is a place that you can play, and they will help you. Again, you got to reach out to Dustin or Jonathan. Tell them what you're doing. I would suggest telling them what you're doing early, kind of the
Yeah.
basic structure, just to make sure they can help you. It'd be a shame to reach out late in the game and they can't. So do yourself a favor,
Yeah.
reach out early.
So I see the biggest issue that I see of people trying to syndicate, like to your point, is they do it too late. Because what you need to do is a lot of times, a lot of clients want to have like the money come from a separate bank account, the entity bank account be set up. And a lot of the times we have sourcing, right, which comes into play, which is like, hey, I need to follow the money because of the anti-money laundering law. So there's ways to strategize and make sure that we can do it correctly so that when you go to close and fund the loan or fund the purchase, there's not a surprise, all of a sudden you got to give me 15 bank statements type thing. If it does come to that, not a big deal, but this is kind of the planning ahead with the group that you're going to actually purchase with, I think is very, very important. Because then you can kind of have the entity structure, however you want to do it. Like if someone has weaker credit, better credit, how can we make the strongest
Yeah.
possible package possible submitted to the loan lender so that we can have underwriting be smooth and all of that. Because a lot of times, like sometimes it may not be worth putting an entity member and just having them buy in later to the entity, if
Right.
anything, because the loan's not going to come out in your favor, right?
Right.
There's no point in dragging the whole party down for one person.
Yeah. At the end of the day, folks, if you're going
Yeah.
to do something big like that, prepare early, reach out to people you know, trust, and like, have them see if they can help you. Just give them a rough plan. And of course, Dustin and Jonathan will always be upfront. And if they can't help, they're going to tell you right away because they don't want to waste your
Mhm.
time or theirs, which is pretty cool. So, Jonathan, I want to ask you about rates and activity. I was
Mhm.
having conversations with agents in Orange County and Austin, Texas. And as of this morning, I'm getting a lot of feedback from the daily financial news. First off, rates matter, right? We had rates, generally speaking, below 7% in January, led to some blowout numbers in February for existing home sales. Obviously, rates went over 7 in early March. Now they're coming back. So I'm curious, are you seeing in your pipeline and activity that rates matter and maybe activity at the end of March is more than the beginning of March, or am I just not, is it not the case?
I mean, I think it's very true that activity has picked up a significant amount. I mean, we're seeing a lot more contracts come in, just overall purchases,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
People are actually, I think, shopping and kind of reaching out to lenders a little too late right now, because I think that a lot of deals, that offers that they wrote and submitted on, they didn't expect to be accepted. And all of a sudden,
Ah,
those are starting to come in, be like, hey, I have 30 days to close.
whoops.
Now I'm kind of, interviewing lenders and trying to see who I can go with. And obviously, if you do that, you kind of shot yourself in the foot because you're putting
Yeah.
yourself in a huge time
Tick, tick,
crunch.
tick, 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 tick.
Yeah,
Yep.
um, but I'm seeing a lot of activity pick up in terms of purchases. And actually,
Yeah.
I think the majority of our purchases are starting to um, come in, like they're coming in with shorter escrow periods too, because people are having to be a little more competitive.
Oh, dude. Dude.
So yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I'm starting to see like realtors and agents and obviously clients start having to write like 21-day escrows and 27-day escrows and kind of short non-contingent, to
Oh.
be aggressive
This
just
this
because
is
people are,
not
yeah,
good.
bidding
This is
out.
not good. This is so um there's something I've said twice in the last couple of days. I'm probably going to talk about it for the next 6 to 8 weeks. It's my greatest fear. And that is home buyers go on tilt. I mean, you and I have been talking for a couple of years now, and we've seen home buyers, they've been trying to buy. There's nothing out there. They're bidding wars. They go over. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. Rates go higher. They pull back. They stop. They screw it. They sign the lease. They're going to stay a year longer. Now rates are coming down. They're getting back in the game. Same crap. They're getting outbid. And I am afraid, like legitimately afraid, that more and more home buyers are just going to go on tilt and say, we're buying no matter what. And that does a couple of things. That leads to potentially a bubble if enough of them do that. It leads to buyer remorse. it leads to negative equity. There's all, like, if enough buyers go on tilt, stuff happens.
You know what's crazy on that note? Exactly. I actually had a client basically say they wanted to bid on a condo in Glendale. It's 880 square foot, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So tiny, right? It was
Tiny.
like 600 grand. 600 grand was the list price, right?
Okay.
And people were trying to bid up like crazy. We went into multiples and we ended up losing out because I told them like, hey, it's not worth it. Like, don't
Ah,
put your life on this.
yes.
Yeah, don't put your life on this to buy it because if you do, you're gonna regret it later,
Oh yeah,
right?
it'll be, you'll regret it.
100%
Oh, but here's
instantly.
my,
But it went into a contract for like 630 or something, 30 grand over for 880 square foot apartment or condo. That's crazy.
yeah. So again, it always happens in onesie twosies. We hear about, the Bay Area home going 400K over, and all of those things. But my fear, again, it's a fear. It's not a call, not a prediction. But we've been in this cycle for 2 years where home buyers have lost, right? There's 2 years ago, no inventory. Then rates go up. They kind of tell themselves, cool, I'm glad I didn't buy. Now rates are down. You know when six and a half feels good is when you're used to 8.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see home buyers go on tilt, because if they do, and that becomes a trend, and that becomes the only way people are buying, that will not end well for the housing market.
And down rate being down is relative, right? We're not like talking
Correct.
about like a shoot down to like 3 or 4, even 5. We're talking
No,
about
nobody's talking.
sixes,
Six,
sevens,
six and a
right?
half would be down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in we're getting things in contract at like 6.5, 6.6 for
Yeah.
primaries, but
Sure.
I mean, if you're talking about a normal person that wants to put like 5, 10% down, right, on a house, you're still looking at a payment at even if it's 6.5, even if it's 7%, you're still looking at a payment that is $500 to $600 more than it would have been if it was a 4 to 5, right?
Of
And
course.
people were afraid to buy in that bucket of 4 to 5. Now they're in 6, 7, and they're saying screw it. But I'm
Dude,
seeing it
dude,
happen
the consumer
in out.
is
Yeah,
easy to predict.
it's
You know when
crazy.
6 feels bad? When they're used to 4. You know when
Yeah,
6.5 feels good? When they're used to 8. If they are not
yeah,
logical, oriented. They're just,
yeah.
they're feelings based.
Exactly. So a lot of investors right now, obviously, like we talked about for months, like getting pushed out of some markets, bid out.
Yeah,
Um, but the way again, I think value add properties are probably the best way to go right now, is what I'm seeing.
I agree.
Properties
I
that are
agree.
maybe not super turnkey, properties that are, people are willing to not move into and live in immediately because they're going to spend all their money on a down payment. If you go
Right.
in as an investor, right, a good strategy that I've been seeing and doing myself is, hey, I'm gonna throw you an offer less than 20% of off the price that you want to take it
Absolutely.
at, and then I'm gonna go in on a bridge loan, finance the rehab, so I'm not technically doing it out of pocket, but I have a margin built in of the
Mhm.
ARV of like at least 40%, and
Yeah.
then I'm just gonna fix it up, rehab it, and then either rent it
Flip
out
the
or
financing
sell it.
or
But
sell it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But my cost basis is so low, right? And you can get like bridge loans are not as crazy as they used to be. And even if you go DSCR without a prepay, right? And you have to buy it on a 30-year fixed, we're still, I mean, gosh, I just did 20% down was like 7.6 is one I
Easy.
just literally did this
Yeah.
morning with
Easy.
no prepay. And I'm like, you might as
Done.
well like purchase if it's good enough to pass that, right? You have a 30-year fixed financing, you're buying it below market, and you have a good tenant that comes in, then you do it, and then 3 years later, however long later, when it's worth it to refinance
Yeah.
into a lower payment or sell
Exactly.
it, 1031 into something bigger, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the
This is going to be
strategy
a
right
lot of
now.
fun. Yeah. I would tell people right now, I am looking at, again, I'm trying to shop in a new market. It will be value add properties on the market greater than 30 days. They will all get, I guarantee you, minimum 20% below asking. And
Yep.
I don't need all of them. I just need one of them to say yes.
Yep. Yep. And I recently put in a couple offers on foreclosure properties
Nice.
off-market foreclosure properties. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll see if it comes to fruition, but I'm starting to get active. Any agents that I work with that are, actually like specialists in their area, their pockets. Right now I'm looking in, and I'm just gonna say it out there for everyone to listen to, but I'm looking in like San Bernardino area,
Yeah.
all the way
Makes
out to Victorville,
yeah,
right?
well, dude, you remember the crash. That was like
Yeah.
prime hunting ground.
Yep, yep. So now it's like, houses are starting to come up that are gonna enter into foreclosures, right? You can
Yeah.
always do this too. This is another little sprinkle of knowledge. If you have a title company that you worked with in the past, and you have a market you're looking at, or you have someone like myself or an agent you're working with, look up notice of defaults. Look
Yeah,
up those
NODs.
those
Yep.
public notices. Yeah, if you look
Yeah.
those up, then you know that they're gonna start going into foreclosure, and then you can start sprinkling in seeds of like, hey, I'm interested if you're interested in getting out, and starting to like make the aggressive offer, make them used to, right, the rate or the payment or the amount money that you're gonna get. And
Yep.
then as soon as that happens, then cycle it out. And then you can take ownership, fix up the property, make it better, rent it out or flip it. But there's a lot of different options that are happening right now in this market that I'm using myself, right? And I know other investors are using. So for the Orat family, go out and do the same thing, right? Look
Yep.
at those pockets, look at those NODs. I
Absolutely.
think that's where the value add is right now.
Absolutely, folks. Something I'll do for you that can help with that is a company called PropStream that I use. My team in Fresno uses. They gave me a link that gives you some kind of discount. I will go find it. I'll put it in the show notes or the description below. PropStream is a tool that my team uses, and we'll likely start using in Vegas as well. Pretty cool technology. Jonathan, if
Yeah, I've
somebody
used
wanted
them
to,
before too.
yeah, their
It's
PropStream
good.
is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So if somebody wanted to reach out, see if you can help them with a HELOC on 2 to 4 units, or get prepped for a syndication, or just anything else, how would they do that?
Go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from more at.
There you go, bud. Thanks again.
Thank you.